All right, the AJ Dylan Whyte press conference, not really much to say because it was pretty uneventful. There was a little bit of banter between Dylan Whyte and Eddie Hearn when Dylan Whyte asked what it's like to have AJ's you-know-what in his mouth. And Eddie Hearn quickly responded by saying, "You might find out on August 12th. I thought that was a nice little retort. But other than that, there was no real fireworks between the two, despite what was promised beforehand by Eddie Hearn and Frank Smith. And in fact, on the topic of Frank Smith, he came out as soon as the fight was signed and said, "It'll do 1 million pay-per-view buys. We could have sold out Wembley with this fight." Now, when it comes to the pay-per-view buys, that remains to be seen, but I'd be amazed if it did 1 million. As far as Wembley, that is a load of rubbish. If this fight could have sold out Wembley, they would have had it at Wembley. They would have given Dylan Whyte more money and not left it up until the last minute to sign the fight and then have it at the O2. If they were so confident that it could fill out Wembley, they would have done all this stuff, set up the fight, paid Dylan what he wanted long in advance, and then had a big bonanza at Wembley where they sold way more tickets and made way more money. Why wouldn't you do that if you were so confident it could sell out Wembley? So that's a load of rubbish from Frank Smith. The fight couldn't sell out Wembley. Nonsense. Anthony Joshua struggled to sell out the O2 last time, and Dylan Whyte didn't even come close to selling out whatever venue he fought Franklin in. Was it the O2 as well? Was it the Copper Box? Was it the Wembley Arena? I forget now. But yeah, that's all hype from Frank Smith. And it's psychological. It's trying to trigger the herd mentality in boxing fans, whereby if you can convince them that everyone's going to tune in for this fight and the tickets are flying and everyone's watching it, the herd mentality kicks in with people and they think, wow, I can't miss it because everyone else is watching it. That kind of thing. You don't want to be the odd one out. So that's what Frank Smith and Eddie Hearn are doing. In terms of how well the fight actually will do on pay-per-view, obviously it depends on how good a job they do promoting it. They would have certainly been hoping for fireworks at the press conference because that helps them. They do have a history, these two fighters. They're one apiece in terms of wins against each other. One in the amateurs, one in the pros. This is the decider. That's the way they're marketing it anyway. A lot of people don't really count amateur fights when it comes to these kind of rivalries. And there was drama in that first fight. Anthony Joshua did get hurt for the first time in his career. Not just to the head, but even to the body in that fight. And it ended with a dramatic knockout. That was one of the best British heavyweight title fights in a long time. And that's one of the reasons I was looking forward to it, because I felt that there was that kind of energy brewing for that fight. Two young guys, chip on their shoulder, wet behind the ears, technique is kind of raw. It's usually in those situations that you get fireworks. Not when you have two seasoned vets fighting each other. And you can sometimes get fireworks there too, but it's more common when you've got two young guys who are still learning the game, who aren't very polished, who are unbeaten, especially at heavyweight. That's normally when you get an explosive fight. So the public remembers all that. And they've also seen Anthony Joshua and Dylan Whyte lose in recent fights. It would be harder to sell this fight if Anthony Joshua was still an unbeaten world champion. But because he's lost as many times as Dylan Whyte has lost, and the losses have been recent, it's not necessarily seen as an even matchup, but it's not seen by the majority as a total mismatch either. Both guys are perceived to be vulnerable. Again, I'm talking about perception here. I'm not talking about what will actually transpire in the ring. We don't know. Maybe AJ walks through him in a couple rounds. Maybe it's a chess match and it's a boring 12-rounder. Maybe Dylan Whyte chins AJ. It's heavyweight boxing, right? And there are a lot of questions about both of these fighters. What do they have left? So all of these things add intrigue. But I'll reiterate what I said in a previous video I did about this fight. For me and for my money, as a paying customer, as somebody who normally buys pay-per-views, I would not buy this one. I don't have anything against the fight per se. I just don't think it's pay-per-view fair for me and my money. In fact, I don't think AJ is pay-per-view fair at all right now. I wouldn't pay for an Anthony Joshua versus Franklin on pay-per-view. I know that was part of the normal DAZN subscription. But unless AJ's fighting a Tyson Fury, a Deontay Wilder, somebody like that, I really wouldn't consider paying extra for an Anthony Joshua fight. And certainly not for a Dylan Whyte fight either. Now, if the two of them come together and rekindle their rivalry in this rematch, you've got their combined pulling power rather than just one of them, their combined commercial value. Yeah, I get that, but to me, that still doesn't add up to pay-per-view. If you want to pay for it, go ahead and pay for it. But for me, nah. I wouldn't even pay for this if it was the usual pay-per-view price, the old price. Never mind them charging, what is it, nearly £30 for it? Anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think about the points I've raised in this video.